I mean, if you want it done right, just let me handle it, honey. The room went still. Sarah Jones blinked once, then twice. Her voice had come out smooth, assertive, confident, even, but now all she could hear was the echo of that final word. Honey. The way it had rolled off her tongue in front of the entire creative team, a mixture of frustration and sarcasm, and something dangerously sweet. Time seemed to hang suspended in the open concept conference room, every eye turning toward her, and especially toward Chloe Miller. Chloe didn't flinch. On the contrary, she tilted her head slowly, that knowing, maddening smile spreading across her lips, as if she had just tasted something forbidden and thoroughly enjoyed it. Well, she said, unfazed, her slight accent curling subtly around each syllable. If honey says so, we better obey. A stifled cough, someone choking back laughter, someone else pretending not to stare. Sarah's cheeks ignited as her brain scrambled to backpedal, to explain, to reframe the moment into something purely professional, purely accidental. But Chloe had already leaned back in her chair, arms crossed, gaze lazily pinned to Sarah like a sunbeam too warm to ignore. Game on. It had started as a tense creative clash. Just another meeting where Sarah had been trying to corral the team's ideas into something coherent, while Chloe kept throwing chaotic, beautiful concepts onto the whiteboard, half of them brilliant, half of them reckless. Their back and forth had been sharp, their tone curt until Sarah's tongue slipped. And suddenly there it was, honey, and now it was everywhere. Later that day, Sarah sat at her desk, hands frozen over her keyboard, replaying the scene on loop in her head. She barely noticed when Chloe appeared beside her with a folder. Client notes, Chloe said, tapping the papers against Sarah's desk. Need your magic, honey. Sarah inhaled too fast, coughed. Don't, she rasped, glancing up just in time to see Chloe's smirk widen. Don't what? Chloe asked innocently, propping herself against the desk like she lived there. Don't say it. Or don't notice how pink you turn every time I do. I wasn't, Sarah began, but her throat closed around the words. She swallowed instead, forcing herself to break eye contact. Chloe was a walking contradiction, effortless and bold, flirtatious and unreadable. She wasn't even sure if the woman was flirting or just amused by how easily she could get under Sarah's skin. For the rest of the day, it kept happening. Chloe dropping honey in every other sentence. Chloe brushing her hand accidentally against Sarah's when passing notes. Chloe standing just a little too close at the coffee machine asking too much. Sugar, honey? In a voice low enough to sting. By the end of the day, Sarah was spiraling. She closed the door to the copywriting suite behind her and collapsed into her chair, willing herself to breathe. She would not let this get to her. Chloe was just doing what she always did, provoking, teasing, winning. It didn't mean anything. Except Sarah wasn't sure she believed that anymore. 2 weeks ago, she had scoffed when the creative director announced the new hire. Asterisk, we're bringing in someone from overseas. Fresh blood, fresh eyes, she's brilliant. You'll love her. Asterisk, Sarah had rolled her eyes. They always said that. But when Chloe walked in, black blazer, bold red lipstick, and that cocky little smirk, Sarah had felt something shift, sharp and immediate. A threat, a spark, maybe both. She hated that spark, still hiding in here. Chloe's voice slipped through the cracked door, uninvited. Sarah looked up to see her standing in the doorway, not even pretending she wasn't enjoying this. I'm working, Sarah said tightly. Alone. Chloe stepped inside anyway. Shame. I was hoping we could brainstorm that tagline together, you know? For the campaign about irresistible cravings. She dropped her bag on the chair beside Sarah's and sat like she belonged there. Sarah exhaled. Do you ever turn it off? Chloe leaned in, her expression unreadable now, something softer edging beneath the usual mischief. Only when I'm bored, she said. And you're never boring, Sarah. The silence stretched. A current pulsed between them, buzzing, unpredictable. Sarah knew she should tell her to leave. Should set boundaries, but her voice betrayed her. What? Do you want, Chloe? Chloe's gaze dropped to Sarah's mouth, then rose slowly. You called me honey. I just thought it would be rude not to return the favor. And just like that, she was gone, leaving behind a trail of perfume and a copywriter who could no longer remember what words were. Sarah told herself the tension would wear off, that once the novelty of her slip faded, Chloe would get bored, but if anything, it was getting worse. 3 days had passed since the incident, and Chloe was still finding every excuse to say it, every moment to make. Sarah's pulse spike, her brain short circuit. It wasn't just the word anymore. It was the way Chloe looked at her when she said it, like they shared a private joke no one else could hear. Like she was unwrapping Sarah slowly without ever touching her. The entire team had started to notice. Subtle glances, lingering silences. Even Anna from accounting had side-eyed Sarah at lunch and whispered, "Are you two?" Sarah had nearly choked on her salad. "No," she'd snapped, too quickly, too loudly. "We're just co-workers." "Sure," Anna had said, unconvinced. And the worst part? Sarah wasn't even sure she believed it anymore. It didn't help that Chloe had been assigned to co-lead the AY's biggest campaign of the quarter with Sarah. The two of them were now stuck in late meetings, mood board, reviews, pitch rehearsals. Their chemistry impossible to ignore. Sarah tried everything to shut it down. She avoided eye contact, kept her replies clipped, drowned herself in edits and notes and endless drafts. But Chloe just leaned in closer. "You missed a comma, honey," she whispered during one of their joint review sessions, her breath brushing against Sarah's ear like a secret. Sarah flinched. "Stop doing that." "Doing what?" "That thing where you say, honey." Chloe smiled. Innocently, but her eyes sparkled like she knew exactly what she was doing. Sarah stood abruptly. "I'm getting coffee." "Get me one too, will you, honey?" Sarah didn't answer. She stormed to the break room and gripped the counter with both hands, trying to remember how to breathe. This was getting out of control. She wasn't flirting. She wasn't interested, was she? Her body said yes. Her mind said no. Her heart had been behaving stupidly ever since Chloe walked in with her perfect confidence and stupid red lipstick. And the way she said Sarah's name, like it was something she wanted to taste. The coffee machine whirred to life as Sarah replayed every moment from the past week. The stolen looks, the brushed fingers, the playful digs that felt a little too personal. She had been so careful for years, professional, untouchable, focused, and now she was falling apart over one word. "Honey, you okay?" The voice made her jump. Chloe was leaning in the doorway, arms crossed, watching her like she was a puzzle to be solved. "I'm fine," Sarah said sharply. "You sure? You seem tense. Maybe because you won't leave me alone." Chloe stepped into the room, her tone shifting slightly. "I'm not trying to mess with you, Sarah." Sarah let out a bitter laugh. "You've been calling me pet names in front of our co-workers for 3 straight days. If that's not messing, what is it?" "Teasing, maybe. Why?" Chloe didn't answer right away. She walked up slowly, stopping just short of Sarah's face, not touching, just standing there. "Because you react," she said softly. "And I like it." Sarah's heart punched against her ribs. "You're playing with fire," she whispered. "I know," Chloe replied, eyes fixed on hers. "But maybe you are too." Sarah swallowed hard. The air between them crackled, too close, too loaded. She needed to break it. She turned away, grabbed 2 coffees, and pushed one into Chloe's hand without a word. Then she walked out, but the damage was done. That night, Sarah couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Chloe's face, heard her say honey in that soft, deliberate voice, felt the echo of her nearness like heat beneath the skin. She told herself it was just workplace tension, nothing more. She told herself she didn't want anything to happen. But when she woke up the next morning, the first thing on her mind was Chloe. Sarah thought if she buried herself deep enough in work, she'd eventually stop thinking about Chloe. She showed up early, stayed late, skipped lunch, kept her headphones in, and her replies monosyllabic. She revised every script for the Irresistible Cravings campaign 3 times over, built backup concepts, scheduled solo client calls, all just to avoid sitting too close to Chloe in meetings. And yet, no matter how many layers of control she tried to wrap herself in, Chloe always found the seams. It was a Tuesday morning when Sarah opened her email and saw it. A shared folder update from Chloe titled Sweet Edits. She clicked on it, expecting updated storyboards. Instead, she found the same mock-ups they'd reviewed last week, but with one change. On the tagline beneath the image of melted chocolate dripping onto a spoon, Chloe had replaced the original text with, "You know you want it, honey." Sarah stared at the screen in stunned silence. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard, unsure whether to laugh, scream, or cry. She could not deal with this level of sabotage. She was about to type a scathing reply when a Slack message popped up from Chloe. Asterisk too much, or just enough? Sarah closed her laptop. She stood, grabbed her phone, and walked straight out of the office, ignoring the receptionist, ignoring the meetings, ignoring the pulse in her neck that throbbed with confusion and rage, and something she was too scared to name. She didn't come back until the next morning. When she walked in, her inbox was full of apologies from the project manager who had to delay a presentation, from her junior copywriter who couldn't access a deck, even from Chloe. Asterisk didn't mean to push, just thought you could use a laugh. Coffee. On me today? Sarah didn't answer. She needed distance. She needed rules. That day, she went straight to HR, not to file a complaint, but to ask for a shift in accounts, any excuse to be reassigned, even temporarily. But the answer was a polite no. The irresistible cravings campaign was too big. She was too crucial. So she sat through another meeting that afternoon, shoulders tight, eyes fixed on her notebook as Chloe presented visuals, confident and glowing and completely unaffected by Sarah's cold front. That night, unable to sleep again, Sarah texted a friend she hadn't talked to in months. Asterisk, you ever fall for someone you absolutely shouldn't? The reply came quick. Asterisk, what's her name? Sarah stared at the screen, guilt clenching her stomach. Doesn't matter, she typed. Asterisk, it's nothing, just... I'm losing control. Asterisk, the next day, Sarah arrived at the office to find a paper coffee cup on her desk. Her name was written on it in Chloe's unmistakable handwriting, along with a tiny honeybee doodle beneath it. She looked up. Chloe wasn't at her desk yet. Sarah reached for the cup, tempted to throw it away, but paused. She opened the lid, sipped. Black, no sugar, exactly how she liked it. She hated that Chloe remembered that. She hated how her chest warmed when she tasted it. She hated that she didn't hate it at all. When Chloe finally walked in, Sarah didn't look up. She just muttered, "Thanks for the coffee." Chloe paused behind her. Then, "Anytime, honey." This time, though, the way she said it was softer, quieter, like it wasn't a game anymore. Sarah froze. For the first time in days, she turned in her chair and looked at Chloe. Really looked. And something in Chloe's expression was different. Less teasing, more uncertain, like she was testing the waters instead of diving in. "Why are you doing this?" Sarah asked, her voice low. "Because I like watching you blush." Chloe tried, but her smile didn't fully reach her eyes. Sarah tilted her head. "That's not all of it." A beat of silence. Then Chloe sighed, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. "Because you make this place feel less fake," she admitted. "Because you're the only person here who doesn't kiss ass or sugarcoat. Because maybe I like the way you look when you're trying not to like me." Sarah didn't have a reply. She couldn't. Her heart was too loud in her chest. Chloe stepped back slowly. "I'll stop if you want," she added. "Seriously, no more teasing, no more honey. I didn't mean to mess things up for you." And for the first time since that accidental slip, Sarah felt a strange ache when she imagined the silence it would leave behind. She nodded once, unsure. "Okay," she whispered. "Let's just focus on the work." Chloe smiled faintly, then walked away, and Sarah sat there staring at the coffee cup, unsure if she had just fixed something or broken it. The office felt colder without it. It wasn't dramatic, not like a door slamming or a confrontation, but it was absence. Noticeable in a quiet way, Chloe no longer lingered near Sarah's desk. In the way their shoulders didn't brush anymore during meetings, in the way the word honey had vanished, taking with it the electricity that had buzzed under Sarah's skin. For days, it should have been a relief, and for the first few hours, maybe it was. Sarah powered through tasks. She revised headlines. She even laughed once during a group brainstorm. But by lunchtime, the silence between her and Chloe started, pressing like a weight on her chest. They still worked together side by side, but now it was strictly professional, clinical, empty. Chloe didn't tease. She didn't glance. She didn't hover. She didn't even smirk when Sarah accidentally spilled tea all over her own notes. "I'll print new ones," Chloe said, cool and polite. No nickname. No spark, and that somehow made it worse than any provocation ever had. Sarah found herself watching Chloe when she thought no one else would notice. The curve of her neck as she tied her hair up, the way her fingers moved across the tablet as she sketched, the slight crease between her brows when she concentrated, the softness in her smile when she laughed at someone else's joke. And more than once, Sarah caught herself wishing Chloe would slip again. That she would whisper, "Honey, just one more time." That she would cross that line again so Sarah could feel the thrill of pushing her back. But Chloe didn't push. And Sarah didn't know how to ask her to. That Friday, after a long pitch rehearsal, the team left one by one until it was just the two of them in the presentation room, both packing up in silence. The tension was thick, not the playful kind, but the kind that builds between two people, pretending nothing ever happened. Sarah moved toward the door but stopped. Her hand hovered over the handle. "Hey," she said without turning. Chloe looked up. "Yeah," Sarah hesitated. The words formed in her throat, too hot, too raw. "You didn't mess things up," she said finally. Chloe didn't answer right away. Then softly, "Didn't I?" Sarah turned around. Chloe was standing near the projector, her face unreadable, but her voice carried a note of real, vulnerable hesitation. "You asked me to stop," Chloe added. "So I did. I thought I crossed the line you didn't want crossed." "You did," Sarah said, "but maybe I didn't mind it as much as I pretended to." Chloe's eyes flicked up to hers, quick and sharp, like a match catching fire. Sarah felt her pulse respond instantly. Chloe took a step forward, then another. "Then why ask me to stop?" "Because I didn't know what this was," Sarah whispered. "And I still don't." "Maybe we don't have to define it right now," Chloe said. "Maybe we can just let it be." Sarah's mouth opened, but no words came. She was terrified of what this meant, what it could mean if she let it go further. But she was more terrified of the hollow space that had grown between them this week. "Okay," she said, one word, soft and unsteady. Chloe stepped closer. They were only inches apart now. "Okay," she echoed. "We let it be," Sarah confirmed. Chloe's smile returned slow and unmistakably fond. "Good," she murmured. "Because I was running out of ways to flirt without calling you honey." Sarah laughed, quiet, breathless, like relief. And when Chloe gently brushed a hand against her arm on the way out of the room, Sarah didn't flinch. She followed her out into the hallway, heart pounding. That weekend, Sarah couldn't stop thinking about her. She replayed every interaction, every glance, every near touch. She caught herself smiling while brushing her teeth, found herself lingering too long at her closet, wondering what she'd wear Monday, not for work, but for Chloe. She didn't even notice how much she wanted to see her again until Sunday night, when the nerves started building in her stomach like static. Monday morning came. Chloe wasn't there. Not at her desk, not in the meeting, not in the break room. Sarah checked her phone. No messages. She tried to focus, but her eyes kept darting toward the entrance every few minutes, her brain inventing ridiculous scenarios. Asterisk, what if she quit? What if she changed her mind? What if Sarah had misread everything? By noon, she was spiraling. And then finally, Chloe walked in sunglasses, oversized scarf, holding her phone with an air of apology. "Sorry," she whispered to the project manager. "Doctor's appointment ran late." She looked fine. Tired, maybe, but still Chloe. Still radiant in a way that made Sarah feel like the office was slightly too small when she was near. Later that day, Sarah passed by Chloe's desk and paused. "Everything okay?" she asked, voice quieter than usual. Chloe looked up and smiled. "I'm fine." Then, after a pause, "Miss me, honey?" Sarah's lips parted, startled. It was the first time Chloe had said it again since they'd called a truce. And hearing it now soft, intentional, just for her, made every nerve in Sarah's body light up like a switchboard. She didn't respond. She just smiled, and this time she didn't look away. Sarah told herself it didn't mean anything, that Chloe calling her honey again was just a joke, a continuation of their strange little dance. But the truth was, it hit different this time. Not in a public setting, not laced with sarcasm. No teasing audience. Just the two of them in the soft hush of mid-afternoon, with Chloe looking up at her like the word belonged to her. Now, Sarah walked away from that moment feeling like she'd just been kissed without ever being touched, and she couldn't stop thinking about it. She'd always prided herself on being composed, even under pressure. But now, her thoughts kept drifting mid-sentence. She kept rereading the same lines in her drafts. She snapped at her team for minor things, then apologized a minute later. Her focus was a mess, and the only common variable was Chloe Miller. She tried to act normal, tried to respond to emails, tried to pretend her heart wasn't skipping. Every time Chloe walked by, but Chloe wasn't making it easy. That week, she became subtler in her provocations. She stopped saying honey out loud, at least, not often, but she started leaving it written. A sticky note left on Sarah's desk read, "Asterisk final edits look sweet. Just like you, honey." A shared doc comment said, "This line's perfect. I'd frame it honestly. Yours always hit hardest." Honey. Asterisk. Sarah would roll her eyes, erase the word, pretend to be irritated, but she always saved the notes in her drawer. And she hated herself a little for that. One afternoon, the team was reviewing mock-ups for a new client one that demanded a more sensual, immersive campaign style. The room was full. Everyone was seated around the long table, passing visuals. Hand to hand, when Chloe dropped a concept labeled, "Temptation starts here," the image was bold, almost provocative, and the tagline was sharp, smart, and dangerously flirtatious. "This is a little intimate," the creative director said, eyebrows raised. "What's the emotional target here?" "Desire," Chloe answered smoothly, "the kind that builds quietly. The kind that sneaks up on you." Her eyes met. Sarah's across the table. "The kind that's already there before you admit it to yourself." The air went thick. No one else noticed, but Sarah did. She felt it straight down her spine. When the meeting ended, Sarah stayed back, pretending to organize notes. Chloe lingered too, watching her from the other side of the room. Finally, Chloe walked over slow and deliberate. "You didn't say anything about the new visual," she said. Sarah didn't look up. "You know it's good, but do you like it?" Chloe asked. Sarah took a slow breath, then raised her eyes. "You know, I do," she said. "It's dangerous." "So are you," Chloe murmured. The space between them crackled again. Sarah could feel it, like something just beneath the surface, begging to rise. "Stop doing this if you're not serious," she said, her voice suddenly sharp. "I can't keep second-guessing if this is just fun for you or if you're actually trying to get in my head." Chloe didn't flinch. "I've been in your head since day one, Sarah, but I'm not playing games. Not anymore." Sarah blinked. Something in Chloe's voice had shifted. It wasn't flirtation. It was real, grounded, raw. "Then what is this?" Sarah asked, her throat tight. "Because we work together, this is complicated." "I know," Chloe said. "But I still want it." Sarah's heart slammed against her ribs. "You want what? You—" The word dropped between them like a match into gasoline. Sarah stared at her. And in that moment, there was no more pretending, no more redirection, no more clever comments or dodging glances, just truth, just heat, just the two of them standing too close to pretend anymore. A knock interrupted them, an intern needing Chloe's approval on a sketch. She stepped away, apologetic, and left Sarah standing there with her hands trembling and her chest burning. That night, Sarah couldn't concentrate. She lay in bed replaying the moment over and over. "I want you," those 3 words echoing louder than any honey ever had. She wanted to run from it, and she wanted to dive headfirst into it. The next morning, Sarah arrived earlier than usual. She didn't know what she was expecting. Maybe that everything would reset again. Maybe that Chloe would pretend nothing had happened. But when Chloe walked in, she didn't pretend. She placed her coffee on Sarah's desk, again, black. Again, no. Sugar, but this time, there was no note, just a look. A quiet, open look. Sarah stared at the cup, then at Chloe. Then she stood up, walked around the desk, and stopped just a breath away from her. "You sure?" she asked, voice barely audible. Chloe didn't hesitate. Yes, Sarah hesitated. Then slowly, almost cautiously, she reached out and touched Chloe's wrist. Not her hand, not her shoulder, just enough to feel her. Just enough to break whatever invisible rule was still left between them. "Okay," Sarah said, and she meant it. For once, she wasn't overthinking it. She wasn't hiding behind work or professionalism or pride. She just said yes. And that simple word changed everything. Everything after that okay changed, but not in the way Sarah expected. Nothing dramatic happened. No immediate kiss, no confessions in the middle of the office, no scandal. Instead, it was subtler, slower, a different kind of charge. Chloe didn't start touching her more. She didn't start using the word honey again in front of everyone. What changed was the way she looked at Sarah, like she was waiting, patient, and steady for Sarah to catch up to something she'd already known for weeks. Sarah walked through the day with a strange heat under her skin, like a secret she hadn't decided whether to keep or not. When she and Chloe stood side by side in the elevator, their arms didn't brush, but Sarah could feel the pull between them as surely as if they had. During meetings, their eyes met more often, but not with challenge anymore. With curiosity, with softness, with anticipation. And yet, nothing happened. Not until Thursday. The agency was chaos that day. Client feedback had come in sharp and fast. The pitch deck had to be restructured, and one of the junior designers had a meltdown over file corruption. Sarah barely had time to breathe, but Chloe was calm, focused. She moved through the room with quiet confidence, helping where she could, saying the right things, balancing the team with a grace Sarah had never fully appreciated until now. At the end of the day, when most of the team had left, Sarah was still sitting at her desk, massaging her temples, exhausted. Chloe appeared in front of her without a word and dropped a cold bottle of sparkling water beside her hand. Sarah looked up. "Thanks." Chloe sat on the edge of the desk. "Long day." "Long week," Sarah corrected. "You handled it beautifully." Chloe tilted her head. "You're harder on yourself than anyone else is. It's how I stay sharp." "It's how you stay scared," Chloe said softly. Sarah froze. "Scared of what?" Chloe leaned forward just slightly. "Of letting something good happen." Sarah blinked. Her throat tightened. She opened her mouth to respond, but no words came. Chloe didn't wait for them. She stood up slowly, brushing a hand gently over Sarah's shoulder, a first deliberate touch. It lingered just a moment too long. Then she walked away, leaving behind only silence and the faint trace of her fingers burning against Sarah's skin. Sarah sat there for another 10 minutes, unable to move. That night, she didn't go straight home. She walked aimlessly around the neighborhood, trying to breathe through everything she was feeling. And what she was feeling was longing. Not just attraction, not just curiosity, but this deep, aching pull towards something that felt terrifying and undeniable. Something that felt like it could actually matter. When she finally got home, she collapsed onto the couch, kicked off her shoes, and stared at the ceiling for a long time. Her phone buzzed once. A message from Chloe. "Asterisk still thinking about you." Honey. Asterisk. Sarah closed her eyes and pressed the phone to her chest. The next morning, she wore a deep navy blouse that made her eyes sharper. She let her hair down. She didn't mean to do it for Chloe. She told herself it was just because it was. Friday, that lie didn't even convince her reflection. When she arrived, Chloe was already there, holding a coffee with Sarah's name on it. "You're early," Sarah said, taking it. "So are you," Chloe replied, smiling. "Looks good on you." Sarah tried not to smile back. She failed. The day passed fast, busy with approvals and final renders. They were finally starting to wrap the first stage of the campaign, and the relief was evident in everyone's mood. The team went out for drinks that evening. Sarah never stayed for those. She always had an excuse, a deadline, a headache, a dog she didn't actually own. But when Chloe looked at her and said, "You're coming, right?" Sarah just nodded. The bar was loud, dimly lit, full of cheap beer and cheap flattery. Sarah stood in the corner nursing a gin and tonic, watching her team laugh and loosen their collars. She wasn't used to seeing them like this unguarded human. Chloe stood across the room, deep in conversation with one of the account managers. She was laughing, hand on the back of a chair, lips curved and red. Sarah hated the sharp flare of jealousy that bloomed in her stomach. She turned away, stared down into her glass. She didn't notice Chloe walking toward her until she was right there. "You okay?" Chloe asked. "Yeah," Sarah lied. "You sure?" Chloe leaned in a little. "You look like you're overthinking something." "That's just my face," Sarah said. Chloe chuckled. "Want to get out of here?" Sarah froze, her breath caught. "What?" "I'm not asking for anything," Chloe said quickly. "Just fresh air, somewhere quieter. I don't want to share you with this room tonight." Sarah's heart cracked open. "Okay," she whispered. They left without a word to the others. Outside the night was cool, the city soft around the edges. They walked for a while without speaking, the silence between them familiar now, intimate, charged. They ended up near a bench in a quiet corner of a park, under a tree with golden leaves falling lazily onto the pavement. Chloe sat first, Sarah followed. "You still scared?" Chloe asked after a long moment. Sarah stared ahead. "Less." Chloe turned to her. "Want me to say it again?" Sarah swallowed. "Yes." Chloe leaned in close enough that Sarah could feel her breath. "I want you." Sarah's head turned. Their faces were inches apart. "Then take me," she said softly, and Chloe did. The kiss wasn't rushed. It was slow, aching, deliberate, like Chloe had been waiting for this moment and wasn't going to waste a second of it. Sarah melted into it. Into her, into everything she tried so hard to hold back. She didn't know where it would lead. She didn't care for now. All she knew was this. The word honey had started everything. But this kiss, this was the beginning of something real. The next morning, Sarah woke up with Chloe's lipstick smudged faintly against her own mouth. The taste of her still lingering on her lips, and one recurring thought playing in her head on a loop. Asterisk, what the hell did I just do? She hadn't invited Chloe home. Hadn't even let the kiss stretch beyond the park bench. But it had been enough, more than enough. Enough to make her heart feel too big for her chest. Enough to burn through the walls she'd built like they were made of paper. And now, in the clean light of Saturday morning, it hit her. This wasn't just chemistry. Wasn't just office flirting or shared loneliness or boredom. Chloe wanted her. And worse, Sarah wanted her back. She stared at her phone, wondering if she should text. Something simple, something casual. But what was casual about what had passed between them last night? How do you message someone who just kissed you like you were the first real thing they'd ever touched? She didn't text. She didn't have to because 2 hours later her buzzer rang. Chloe standing at her door like she belonged there, holding 2 coffees and a bag of pastries like this wasn't terrifying. "You didn't text," Chloe said, leaning against the frame. "I wasn't sure if I should," Sarah confessed. "You kissed me, honey," Chloe said softly, eyes warm. "You think I'd let you ghost me after that?" Sarah didn't laugh. She couldn't. Her chest was too tight with everything she was feeling. She stepped aside to let Chloe in. "I don't usually do this," Sarah said as the door closed. "Which part?" "The kissing or the letting someone in on a weekend?" "Both." Chloe smiled. "Good. I like being the exception." They didn't talk about work. They didn't talk about timelines or deadlines or clients. They sat on the floor of Sarah's apartment eating flaky croissants and drinking coffee too strong. And they talked about other things. Music, childhood, favorite meals, the worst date they'd ever been on. Sarah told Chloe about the time she'd pretended to be allergic to cats just to leave a date early. Chloe laughed so hard she nearly spilled her coffee. "You're way more chaotic than you pretend to be," she teased. "Don't tell anyone," Sarah said, smiling. "For real." "Your secret's safe with me, honey," Chloe murmured. And this time, when she said it, Sarah didn't flinch. She didn't roll her eyes. She just closed her own for a moment, breathed in the sound of it. But Monday came, and with it, reality. When Sarah walked into the agency that morning, everything looked the same, that felt different. Chloe was already there talking to another designer, looking professional and poised and distant. Sarah hated how her stomach twisted. She knew it had to be like this. They hadn't defined anything. They hadn't promised anything, but part of her had hoped something would change. Maybe a glance, maybe a smile meant just for her. But Chloe barely acknowledged her. Throughout the day, Chloe was cool, friendly, professional, but that was it, nothing more. Sarah tried to focus on work, but her thoughts were fractured. 1,000 possibilities spun in her head. Did Chloe regret it? Was it just a kiss to her? A weekend indulgence? Or was Sarah just spiraling again? Too deep, too fast, overthinking what might be nothing. During lunch, Chloe finally stopped by her desk. "Quick update," she said, voice even. Client moved the timeline. "We're presenting Thursday instead of next week." "Okay," Sarah said, her tone clipped. "Got it." Chloe didn't move. Her eyes softened just a bit. "You good?" Sarah looked up at her, then back at her screen. "Fine. Okay," Chloe said quietly, just checking, and then she walked away. Sarah watched her go, emotions crashing against each other inside her. Confusion, irritation, longing. She didn't want to play games. She didn't want to guess. That night, Sarah stayed late, working alone in the copywriting suite. She needed the silence. She needed the structure of words. But halfway through rewriting a pitch slide, the door opened behind her. Chloe, holding 2 mugs. "Couldn't sleep," Chloe said. "Figured you'd be here." Sarah didn't speak. Chloe set the mugs down and sat across from her. "You're mad." "I'm not," Sarah said, lying. "You're hurt," Chloe corrected. Sarah hesitated. "Then I just didn't expect you to act like nothing happened." Chloe leaned forward. "I wasn't sure what you wanted. I didn't want to make it harder." "You didn't even look at me today, Sarah," she said, her voice breaking. "You kissed me like you meant it, Chloe. And then today you disappeared." Chloe's jaw tightened. "Because if I look at you the way I want to look at you, I won't be able to stop." Sarah's heart stopped. Chloe continued, voice low, raw. "You undo me, Sarah, and I don't know what that means yet, but it scares the hell out of me." Sarah stood slowly, walked to her side of the table. "Then be scared," she whispered. "But don't shut me out." Chloe stood too, facing her. The tension between them was thick again, but it wasn't flirtation anymore. It was something deeper, heavier. Sarah reached up and touched Chloe's face gently. "I don't want to be a distraction." "You're not," Chloe said. Breathless. "You're the only thing keeping me grounded." This time, when their mouths met, it wasn't tentative. It was messy, real, hungry. Chloe's hands found Sarah's waist. Sarah's fingers tangled in Chloe's hair. It was the kind of kiss that made the walls of the office fade away, made the fluorescent lights and glass doors feel like the backdrop to something much more important. When they pulled apart, breathless, Chloe smiled, finally fully. "You wrecked me," she whispered. "Right back at you," Sarah said. "Honey." After that night, Sarah stopped pretending. She stopped pretending she could separate her work from Chloe. She stopped pretending that the fire between them could be tamed with logic or professionalism or space. Because no matter how carefully she tried to compartmentalize her life, Chloe kept slipping through the cracks. Every glance, every smirk, every whisper of honey, soft and rare, like a secret only they shared. But the more real it became, the more dangerous it started to feel. At first, it was innocent enough. Or at least it looked that way to everyone else. They still sat across from each other in meetings. They still edited copy and visuals side by side. They still acted like colleagues, but behind closed doors, after hours, in quiet corners, in stolen moments, they were something else entirely. Sarah had never done this before, never risked the one place she had control, her sanctuary of order and boundaries and professionalism. And yet, every time Chloe's fingers brushed hers under the table, every time their eyes locked across the room and lingered just a moment too long, Sarah let herself slip further into the blur. It was exhilarating, and it was dangerous. They were good at hiding it for a while. But then came the New York pitch. A major client was flying in. Big budget, national reach. Every team had to prepare. And Sarah, as usual, had built the narrative from scratch, spending long nights fine-tuning the language and flow of the campaign. Chloe, of course, had crafted the visuals to match. It was their best collaboration yet. Everyone knew it. The project manager was practically salivating. But as the pressure built, so did the cracks. It started small. A missed message, a skipped lunch, Chloe showing up late to a planning session without explanation. "Are you okay?" Sarah asked one night as they stayed late polishing the deck. Chloe gave a distracted smile. "Yeah, just tired." But she didn't kiss Sarah before leaving. And that silence hurt more than Sarah expected. Over the next few days, Chloe became quieter. She still looked at Sarah, but she didn't reach for her hand under the table. She still texted, but only about work. No late night thinking about you messages. No pet names. No honey. Sarah didn't know how to bring it up. Didn't know if she was allowed to ask. After all, they hadn't defined anything. No labels, no promises. But when you go from being kissed in an office at midnight to being treated like you're invisible, it leaves a mark. On Thursday, the day before the pitch, the team gathered in the main conference room for final prep. The mood was tense. Sarah stood at the head of the room, guiding everyone through the slides. Chloe sat silently at the far end of the table, her tablet untouched. "Chloe?" Sarah prompted, trying to keep her tone neutral. "Anything you want to add on the visuals?" Chloe looked up, startled. "They're fine, just that. Number. Detail, no passion, no fight." Sarah's chest tightened. She turned back to the team, finishing the presentation without emotion, her voice robotic, her throat dry. After the meeting, as everyone filed out, Chloe lingered. Sarah didn't look at her, not until Chloe said, "Can we talk?" Sarah didn't answer, just let her into the smaller private room beside the conference space.